Welcome to Education in Focus. I'm Eliana Kernodle. As cell phone bans in schools are gaining steam in dozens of states, one lawmaker is taking it to the federal level by proposing legislation leading to cell phone-free schools. Joining me with more on this story is the Center Square's Sarah Roderick Fitch. Sarah, this has been a nationwide conversation with many states considering legislation, and even kind of on a day-to-day level. I think a lot of people talk about the problems in our schools, and this one comes up a lot. But now it could be a national policy conversation. Tell us about this Virginia legislator and the bill that he's proposing.
Yes, it's been being proposed by Congressman. He's a Democratic Congressman, Eugene Vindman, out of Virginia, Northern Virginia. He's a freshman representative, and this is his first term. He's kind of known for the whole initial Trump impeachment. That's sort of, if people recognize his name, that's where he comes from. But yes, it's interesting. So he is proposing this legislation that would essentially direct different state agencies to implement cell phone free education. And he recently, how he kind of came to this conclusion, he recently hosted a roundtable discussion with parents and educators, local leaders, even some students apparently, on the topic, as well as he kind of took some stuff from a psychologist who is as well versed in that sort of in that field, and just sort of taking it from different approaches and seeing how that's, how it's impacting students, how it's impacting maybe teachers, education. He looked at, looking at from an education aspect, obviously students are struggling. That's an issue that's across the United States. And then also the other problem is that there's a growing mental health crisis among students. And that's also sort of experts have sort of, tied, both of those into the usage of cell phones in schools. So it's a very interesting ban. I mean, it's kind of been, it's been definitely bubbling up a lot in the country in the last year, really. It's been, popping up, and it's really kind of all over now.
Yeah, and you mentioned he talked to a number of different people. Virginia has implemented a ban on this, so they have kind of on-the-ground experience with this at this point. What has he said about kind of how that's impacted people in Virginia?
Interestingly, so I will say this is definitely a bipartisan issue. This is not a Republican Democrat, because but Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, so was a Republican. He last year he put out an executive order, basically lining up saying, hey, he wanted there to be a model policies directive. He wanted sort of schools, he wanted the Department of Education here in Virginia to come up with set of policies and guidelines, standards, whatnot for cell phone free education. And it came down to it was a bunch of people. There was a lot of different back and forth, but they essentially came up with this whole like a bell to bell sort of schedule. And so no cell phones during like when school starts to the end, lunch hour, nothing like that. Hey, they have to be put away, whatnot. But apparently, that obviously it seems somewhat successful. Some of the people that Congressman Vindman talked to even a student, and the student said, hey, it's working great. I have a nephew who is 16 in high school here. He thinks differently. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, wow, I found one student. But there's a lot of debate on it. But certainly from the level of like mental health professions and educators, they're looking at it going, hey, this is a huge problem. There are parents who kind of want more control over it. They want to be able to contact their kids. And obviously there's been different, policies put in place to ensure that parents can reach their kids, or if there's some sort of medical need or, language thing, whatever, that will be accommodated. But it has, and Vindman, he even said, hey, this has been a success here in Virginia. It's been something that's sort of been replicated. There's 8-9 states that have implemented bans, and I think there's only about a handful. I can't think off the top of my head how many number, but I think about only a handful that don't have anything in the pipeline as of yet to have these bans. So it's definitely something that is spreading across the board. And like I said, it is a completely bipartisan issue, with Republicans and Democrats coming together and really kind of agreeing that this is sort of an issue in the schools. So I think it's really interesting.
It's interesting that so many states have this in the pipeline, are considering it, and yet he's also bringing this like federal legislation. Is it just to get the ball rolling in those states that don't have it yet, or to ensure that something actually does happen in states if maybe they don't pass it?
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit of both. And also, I think it'd be interesting. I mean, it's like I said, it's very early, it's very early on. I think too is like trying to come up with, maybe sort of a set policy or whatever. Maybe, some states, they want to have them put in like safe pouches, these phones. I mean, who knows where this is going to lead to as far as like, resources to be able to provide some of these schools to, lock away to lock away the phones. It could also lead to, maybe at some point, I don't know, like being able to, I don't know, I'm not a technology person, but, like a jammer or something like that in the schools. We don't know, where this will lead to ensure that these schools maybe don't have this, that the students don't have the capability, or who knows, with maybe an agreement with cell phone providers. I don't know where this will lead to and how that's going to, develop, but I think it's a very interesting sort of thing. But yeah, there's been some states that have, like Ohio, for instance, just recently, they're now introducing it. Ohio saying, hey, they had been leaving it up to the school districts, and now they want to have the governor there, DeWine, he wants to have more control over it, saying, hey, no, you need to have a policy. So I think kind of this is sort of the same sort of sense, as maybe just to sort of ensure, that some of these states that don't have it, or maybe they're a little bit looser on the, on their policies and whatnot, is just kind of have like, I think really probably a national sort of a model of like, hey, this is how we want this to work. And it's interesting. Yeah, I think he kind of wants to model it after Virginia, where, and so it is really interesting that like New York is kind of trying to do the same thing. California has done the same thing. Arkansas. I mean, you can, it's fascinating to see how quickly this is sort of caught on. It's caught on like fire. It's just, it's going everywhere. It's spreading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I guess, everyone loves federalism and local control until people don't do what you want them to.
Exactly. So this is, yes. So it does, though, like I said, it does have a little touch of federalism, because I thought that was interesting, because there is that, the Department of Education is being proposed to be, the United States Department of Education to be, dissolved. But he did leave it, I thought was very interesting, was he said to direct the state's agencies to do this. So it would be putting it at the state agencies. It's not going to be, from what I can see, is like a federal level. But there are senators that have also, in February, and actually the senator from Virginia here, Tim Kaine, he was one of the ones leading for it, about funding for a study on the impacts of cell phones in schools and on students and everything like that. So I think they're looking at it, as far as a fund, maybe funding aspect too, as far as what they can do. So it'll be interesting to see where this leads to. I think it's definitely going to become more of a debate.
Well, it's very interesting. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. You can continue to follow this at thecentersquare.com.